Daniel Cole had lived on Maple Hollow Road for 11 years. He waved at neighbors, mowed his lawn on Saturdays, and smiled the same tired smile whenever someone asked about his life before the little blue house. He never answered. He just changed the subject. His daughter Ellie was 8 years old, and in her entire life, she had never once heard her father speak her mother's name. Every night, Daniel tucked her in the same way. One chapter of whatever book she loved that week. A kiss on the forehead. The lamp shaped like a crescent moon switched off. A lamp that used to belong to someone else, though Ellie didn't know that. "Dad," she asked once, right before sleep pulled her under, "do I look like anyone?" "You look like you, kiddo. That's the best thing to look like." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Daniel worked as a mechanic at a shop on the edge of town. He was good at it. Steady hands, quiet focus. When his hands were busy, his mind couldn't wander back to places he'd sealed off a long time ago. For 8 years, that had been enough. Until the day of the second grade family history project. Ellie's teacher sent home a flyer 2 weeks before the school's spring assembly. Every student would bring a poster about where their family came from. Ellie spent an evening at the kitchen table with markers and glue, asking Daniel questions he answered as carefully as he could without lying. What was Mom's favorite color? Daniel's hand paused over his coffee mug a second too long. "Blue," he said quietly, "like the sky right before it rains." Ellie wrote it down without noticing the way his voice had changed. The night before the assembly, Ellie couldn't sleep. Daniel found her sitting on her bed, poster spread out, staring at an empty space where a photo should go. "I don't have a picture of Mom," she said. "You don't have any pictures of her anywhere. Why not?" Daniel sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Everything's complicated with you." There was no anger in it, just the tired frustration of a kid who'd learned to stop asking because the answers never came. "Grandpa Tom has pictures on his wall. Mia's mom has a whole album. We don't have anything. It's like she never existed." "She existed," Daniel said. "She existed more than we ever know." Ellie looked up at him and asked the question that would change everything. Then, "Why won't you ever talk about her?" Daniel sat there a long moment. He realized something he'd been avoiding for 8 years. Keeping quiet wasn't protecting Ellie anymore. It was only keeping them apart. "Okay," he said finally, "I'll tell you. But promise me something first." "What?" "That no matter what I say tonight, you remember. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Everything after this story led to you." Ellie nodded, solemn in the way only kids can be when they sense something big is coming. Daniel took a breath and let himself go back. Her name was Rachel. They met in a diner that didn't exist anymore. On a rainy night Daniel could still describe in perfect detail. She'd asked to borrow his newspaper because hers had gotten soaked. He gave her the whole thing, sports section included, just to keep talking to her a little longer. Rachel laughed loud enough to make strangers turn their heads. She wanted a porch with too many wind chimes. She married him 3 years later in folding chairs and string lights because that was all they could afford, and neither of them cared. When she got pregnant, Daniel thought he'd never been happier. He was right. He just didn't know how short it would be. Rachel died 6 weeks after Ellie was born. A blood clot. Sudden, unpredictable, the kind of thing doctors describe with words like rare when there's nothing comforting left to say. Daniel came home from a diaper run to paramedics in his living room, and a future rearranged in 20 minutes. He didn't remember much after that. Feeding a bottle to a newborn at 3 a.m. with shaking hands, staring at the wall because looking at Ellie's face, Rachel's face, softened and small, was sometimes more than he could carry. "So Mom died because of me," Ellie whispered now, tears gathering. "No," Daniel said it immediately. "Never because of you. She wanted you more than anything. It wasn't your fault. It was never your fault." "Then, why did you make it like she never happened?" This was the harder truth. "Because every time I looked at you I saw her," Daniel said quietly. "Your smile, her smile. Your laugh, her laugh. I loved that, and it destroyed me some days all at once. I didn't know how to hold both those feelings at the same time, so I packed away the photos, and I stopped saying her name, and I told myself I was protecting you. Really, I think I was just protecting myself from missing her too much." Ellie wiped her eyes, but didn't look away. "I want to know about her, all of it, even the sad parts." Something in Daniel's chest, clenched shut for 8 years, finally loosened. He told her everything after that. Not all in one night, but slowly, over weeks, the diner, the stolen newspaper, Rachel's terrible cooking and her stubborn refusal to admit it, the wind chimes she never got her porch for. He dug an old box of photographs out of storage. Ellie sat on the living room floor for hours, memorizing a face she'd never gotten to know. "She's smiling in almost all of them," Ellie said. She was like that, even on bad days. One Saturday, Daniel decided to try something he'd been putting off for years. Ellie wanted her hair braided for picture day, and every video he'd found online made it look easy. It was not easy. His first attempt came out lopsided, half unraveling before she even stood up, one side higher than the other. Ellie caught her reflection in the hallway mirror and burst out laughing so hard she had to sit down. "Dad, it looks like a bird built a nest on my head." "It's abstract," Daniel said, trying not to laugh himself. She made him try again, and again. By the fourth attempt, it was almost straight. Almost. Ellie kept the photo from that first crooked braid on her nightstand for years afterward, right next to the crescent moon lamp. Not because it was good, but because it was the first time in a long while she remembered her father laughing without looking sad underneath it. For the family history project, Ellie brought a photograph of her mother laughing at something off camera, sunlight in her hair. Underneath it she wrote, "My mom's name was Rachel. She loved art, terrible cooking, and me. My dad kept her alive by finally telling me her story." When her teacher read it aloud at the assembly, Daniel looked down at his hands for a moment, blinking hard. That night, before bed, Ellie stopped in the hallway in front of the framed photo. Daniel had finally set on the mantel. "Good night, Mom," she whispered. Daniel stood a few feet away, listening, saying nothing. For the first time in 8 years, Rachel's name sounded like home again. The end. If this story moved you, remember, sometimes the people who seem the strongest are simply carrying the heaviest things alone. A little honesty and a little courage can be the thing that finally sets them free.